Hi everyone, I'm so glad you could join me for another bake along, and today is really something special. My lemon blondies. Now I'm going to walk you through how to mix this blondie batter by hand and how to work in lemon juice without your batter curdling. After that, when we bake the blondies, I'll top them with a simple lemon glaze, perfect for afternoon tea. Yes, that's right, I'm making lemon blondies. What I know you're going to love about these lemon blondies is they're not over the top sweet, which blondies can sometimes be that. The lemon juice really helps balance the flavor, and they're just fragrant and easy to eat, and they have all that buttery goodness that a blondie should have. And that's what I'll start with. I'm going to cream together my unsalted butter, granulated sugar, and to start drawing out the lemon flavor from the zest of my lemon, I add it now. So that way the friction of the sugar can really draw out the oils in the zest that really give lemon desserts their aroma, lemon essence. So you want a good 2 teaspoons, depends on the size of your lemon. If that's a whole lemon or slightly less. And now as you're combining this mixture, it won't turn fluffy like the base of a cookie dough. It'll be a little bit dense to start. And my kitchen is a bit chilly today. This butter is a bit cold. So just give me a moment to work this through by hand. Of course, you could pop this in the mixer if you wanted to, but I find it simple enough to make by hand and more interesting for you to see each step of the process. Sometimes you need a mixer, and sometimes you don't. All right. So as I mentioned, even though this sugar butter mixture isn't light and fluffy, I know it's well combined. As you're blending it together, you'll see the little bits of sugar off to the side become fully blended. So now I know I can add my egg. Now here's a little tip. I am adding lemon juice to this blondie recipe, which means I'm at risk of the batter splitting. Adding the acidity can do that. So what I do is I actually add my eggs in 2 additions. So first I add an egg with my vanilla, and I'll give that a stir, so that'll loosen up this base batter a little bit. Make sure at this point it's well combined. It'll start smoothing out a little easier now. What I find helpful at this point is to add a few spoonfuls of my flour. So I've measured out my flour, and I'll add about 1/3 of it to the batter. So this is now bringing more of almost like a pastry dough together. By adding the flour, it's bringing the butter and the sugar and the egg together with a little bit of flour, so that when I add the remaining egg and the lemon juice, it won't separate out. Because this is a blondie, not a brownie, I don't have melted chocolate to make the batter sort of thin and runny. So you really do want to mix it well. And you want that density because that's what yields the chewiness in your blondie once it's all done. Okay, so now I can add my remaining egg. And that's becoming a lot easier to stir now. and just that little bit, 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice, but it balances out the sweetness, and the chewiness you get from these Blondies is divine. And my batter is holding together, so in goes my remaining measurement of flour. And typical to a brownie or a Blondie recipe, no baking powder, baking soda. We want these to sort of be dense, at the same time, not heavy. And so you stir this until it comes together. And that's it. It's a very simple batter. So I've decided to make these Blondies little 2-bite wonders. To do that, I've taken a mini muffin tin and lined with paper liners, all 24 holes. Now, if you want to bake a pan of lemon Blondies and cut them into squares, you have to do 2 things. First, you need to double this recipe because this is enough for 24 mini Blondies, but it's not enough for a 9 or 8-inch square pan. So once you've doubled the recipe, you spread it into the pan and you would bake it for about 25 minutes at 375, where these only bake for 15 minutes at 375. To make them easy to portion, I'm using a piping bag. You can clearly use 2 spoons and portion out, or a small portion scoop if you wish. You don't have to bother with a piping tip. And you'll fill your paper liner cups about 3/4 full of the batter. The butter within the lemon Blondie batter melts right away, so don't worry if you see little peaks at the top of your Blondie. They will disappear. The only volume you get, sort of the leavening, is from the 2 eggs that you've worked into the batter. These are a perfect make-ahead if you have to bring them to a party because they transport well, they store well, they stay nice and chewy for a few days, so you can make them well ahead of time. Top up a few of these to use up my remaining batter. Didn't want to run out partway through. These are ready for the oven. A reminder, 15 minutes at 375. They won't turn brown on the surface, but you'll see just a tiny bit of cracking, and that's when you know they're done. Here are the Blondies out of the oven. And so you can see what I mean about just a couple of little cracks that show you've had a bit of lift inside the Blondie. And I just let these cool in the tin. Just a hint of browning at the bottom, but they're dense and buttery and so fulfilling. Now you can stop right here and appreciate these Blondies in their natural state. Or if you'd like, you can add a bit of a glaze. And what I do is just take a touch of icing sugar with some fresh lemon juice. I'm going to add a little at first, holding back some until I make sure I get the right consistency. It's just another great opportunity to add a bit of sweetness, but also the tartness of the lemon juice to heighten that lemon flavor. Definitely going to need that added lemon juice. There we go. I want this to be quite a fluid glaze. So it'll cover the top of each bite-sized Blondie. There we go. I might as well make use of my lemon juice glass. To fill my piping bag because it is so fluid. So another opportunity for a piping bag to come in handy. And because this is so fluid, I'll just make a small opening, not too big. There we go. And just let the glaze, I'll start with this one, pour over top and fill the spaces. If you want, you can take a skewer and work it into the edges. You'll find this glaze starts setting very quickly. If you're being festive or fancy about it, you could put on a little dragée or decorator's sugar. There we go. That's what I mean about letting it take time to fill in the edges. And you do want to allow time for the glaze to dry. It does take about an hour or so. Of course, I'm going to show you what they look like out of the pan. Hopefully I won't get too sticky. There we go. I think I'll leave some plain and some glazed. That way I've got the contrast between the two, but you get the idea. You've got this nice sheer, tart but sweet layer on top of each of the Blondies. Grab a pretty plate. One more to put right in the middle, like so. And there you have it, lemon Blondies, buttery, tart, tangy, packed with lemon flavor, which you know I love my lemon desserts. Remember, the full recipe is below. I look forward to hearing about your versions of your own lemon Blondies. Of course I'm going for an iced one. Why wouldn't I? The glaze is starting to set, but it does need a little more time, but that's okay. Thank you everyone for joining me again for another delicious bake along, and you'll see me again soon with another fantastic recipe. How short was that sign off? Clearly I wanted to dive into one of these. Ooh, soft. It's the butter. How can it be just the butter and the lemon? What a combo.